So here we are, Friday morning, and I am joined by Ed Jackson. Woohoo! And Ed is probably one of the busiest people I know. And for those of you that have never met Ed before, Ed, adventurer, you've got your own charity, you're a broadcaster, you're a mentor, you're a husband. And it's 8:45 in the morning. And what have you done this morning?
Yeah, just been doing
your average workout.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, sometimes I arrive and you've done a bit of cold water swimming.
Well, you know what the key is here? I haven't got kids. See,
Ah.
if father was part of that, then my schedule might look slightly different.
I don't know. I can see you planning in. Right, yeah. Done the bottle feeding, and now I'm off to jump in the water. But and you're off to the Winter Olympics soon, which is amazing. So on top of all of this, you've had to overcome some pretty horrendous things in your life because, started off as a kid, wanted to be a professional rugby player and achieved that. You had amazing success as a professional rugby player, played for your country, played for Bath, played for a whole number of teams. And then not so long ago, actually, I'm staggered by how recently it was, because it was only in 2017.
Yeah.
Something pretty horrendous happened. And I know you've said this 1,000 times, but would you mind just telling everyone?
No, yeah, of course. I was, as you said, very lucky to be able to play rugby professionally. So it's kind of every kid's dream growing up, especially growing up where we're from, down in Bath. It's what everyone wants to do. It's a big rugby part of the world. And I was lucky enough to play for 10 years, including playing for Bath for 3 years, my hometown club. And then I got to 27 and I was playing rugby in Wales at the time, and actually I was absolutely loving it. I just signed another 2-year contract. In a year's time, I was going to qualify for Wales. There was talk of potentially going on a summer tour. But I injured my shoulder in a game against Connacht over in Ireland in December. Wasn't too bad. I had to have an operation, but it was a pretty minor one. I was just resting up until the next season started.
Yeah.
And I came back here to Bath, to my parents' house, and it was the first sort of hot day of the year. So naturally you go and find somewhere with a swimming pool.
Yeah.
So which of your friends have got a swimming pool? So we went round there, and it was like a feature pool, had a waterfall in one end, and after lunch I just went down and dived in where the waterfall hit the water, thinking it was deep, and what I thought was 8-9 feet, whatever the deep end effectively, it wasn't. It was the shallow end. It was only about 3 feet deep, but because of the waterfall I couldn't see the bottom. In hindsight I probably should have checked more, but it was just that instinct thing. And the ironic thing is, I used to be a swimmer when I was younger, and straight away I was like, how's it taken this long to do something like this? Because all the stuff I've jumped off and dived into water in much sketchier places. But I hit my head so hard on the bottom that I dislocated the bottom of my neck. The disc in between exploded and cut my spinal cord in half. So it was really serious spinal cord injury. I was paralysed from the shoulders down immediately, which obviously when you're in a pool isn't ideal because you're staring at the surface.
Oh, no.
And I just remember thinking that it's okay, I'll stand up and see if I'm bleeding. Obviously I knew I'd hit my head really hard, but I hadn't lost consciousness. But when I went to stand up, that's when I realised it was bad, because I couldn't move, and I was just praying someone saw, because otherwise I would have drowned. And luckily my dad was in the pool and one of my friends, and they pulled me to the surface. But that was the start of a long process. I got taken to hospital. I was actually resuscitated in the ambulance 3 times. And then I had a 7-hour operation, woke up in intensive care and was completely paralysed from the shoulders down. And it was even after a week, I had no movement or sensation return. So the doctors pretty much wrote me off.
Did they say to you, I'm really sorry, but it looks like you're never going to walk again?
Yeah. The hope was, because of the level of my injury, because depending on how high your injury is, depends on how much of your body it affects. So quadriplegic or tetraplegic means 4 limbs, and that effectively means a neck break. So that means it affects your arms as well. Paraplegic is a back break, so that affects just your lower body.
Yeah.
I was a neck break, but I was a lower neck break, so they were hoping I'd get use of my shoulders back and some use of my arms. You can tell my hands are still affected, but so I could use a wheelchair to be independent. But no one was expecting anything to come back legs wise. So it was going to be a wheelchair for the rest of my life, but the main thing for me was just trying to get some independence back. So if I could use my hands, then I could do things like my own, wash myself, feed myself, and it wouldn't affect other people's lives so
But
much.
that in itself, you know, is a big step from other people, because other people may have gone, okay, mum, dad, you know, sorry, or Lois, sorry, but this
Yeah.
is, you know, to have that mindset to think, I want to get better is a big thing in itself.
Yeah, and I feel very fortunate that I had that mindset, but it wasn't immediate.
Yeah.
I was not feeling like that for the first week. It was very much like, why me? I don't deserve this. You know, the life's not fair.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I realised it wasn't just about me, it was about everyone who was going to have to care for me for the rest of my life. And I didn't expect to get better, but I knew that I had to do everything I could to try, so that at least then, in 10 years' time, when Lois has been a full-time carer for me for the last 10 years, at least I can look myself in the mirror and go, you gave it everything you could, and it was out of your hands.
Yeah.
Now, luckily,
amazing,
things,
because you said to yourself, right, I'm gonna see if I can get my toe to move. That was sort of the first thing, and you started writing a blog about that and telling your story.
I was just staring at my feet and willing them to move, because you can remember how to move them, but your brain's telling them, but nothing's happening, and which is a very bizarre sensation, especially for me. I was professional sportsman. One thing I was pretty good at was controlling my body, and it was like that was the one thing that was taken away. It was almost like a cruel twist of fate. If I was, I don't know, a genius, and your brain is your main tool, then it's not so, it's not such a loss. Obviously it's not nice, but you look at someone like Stephen Hawking, he would much rather someone everyone would rather their body rather than their brain. But for me, I just felt really vulnerable and a real loss of purpose, and I just remember staring at my toes and willing them to move. But I didn't believe it was actually going to happen, because it was the spinal cord injury. I was categorised as Asia A1, which is the highest level. So initially I was told it was a complete injury, which means there would be no scope for recovery. And that's the bit where now, further down the line, obviously I have made a recovery way past the point that was ever expected. But if I believed them, and a lot of people do, I was just really lucky that I had outside motivation. I had a lot to fight for. I was engaged. I had an amazing support network, family and friends. I also had other people who'd been through similar situations before saying, don't give up, keep trying. But a lot of people don't have that. And if I'd have listened to them, I'd still be lying in a hospital bed, because you've got to try, you've got to will your toes to move. Otherwise they're not going to move. They're not just going to start moving by themselves. So that's what I did, and when I did eventually move, I was as surprised as the doctors, to be honest.
So in Easter 2017, you're lying there in a hospital bed. You've just got your right toe to move. We fast forward to Easter 2018. Easter 2018, Easter Sunday. What were you doing?
I was hobbling, for want of a better word, up Snowden.
You'd walked up bloody Snowden.
Yeah, I know, it does seem a bit ridiculous looking back, that all happened in a year, and it shouldn't have happened, but, once the recovery started coming, we just wanted to sort of keep the hammer down and keep progressing as far as I could. We never knew when it would stop, and after about 6 or 7 months, I was doing 6 hours of physio a day. There was no end in sight, it was just open-ended, see how far we can take this, and it was becoming hard to keep myself motivated. Normally, before with rugby injuries, I would know how long a dislocated shoulder would take to recover, or an ACL, and you could literally put a pin in the diary and say, on that day I'll be back fit, and that helps with your motivation, having those goals. So I wanted to put a goal in place, and Snowden was a bit of a ridiculous one. The physios laughed at me when I said it, but I said, look, I'm going to do it anyway, you can come with me or not. And I didn't think I'd get up there, to be honest, again, but I knew that by trying, at least other people would see me on my feet. It would make the press, and people back in hospital would go, oh, that's the guy who told he's never going to walk again, and now he is. So hopefully it would give them some hope that maybe they could do it as well.
But just to make it clear to everyone just how difficult it is, we say, oh, walking up stone, but actually one side of your body is still, paralysed, doesn't work, and I can punch you and you won't feel it.
No, actually, ironically, the bit that doesn't move properly, I can feel normally. The bit that moves properly, I can't feel.
You can't feel. Okay,
Yeah.
so actually both sides are affected.
Yeah, all 4 limbs are affected. So I am categorised as an incomplete quadriplegic.
Yeah.
That confuses people sometimes. You hear the term quadriplegic and you just know about the famous people who are complete quadriplegics, but quad just means 4. So anyone who's had a spinal cord injury on their neck is a quadriplegic, either complete or incomplete. Yeah. And then anyone who's had a back injury is a paraplegic, either complete or incomplete.
And you also, your body temperature, it's difficult to regulate that.
Yeah.
So,
I don't sweat from below here anymore. I say that having just come out of the gym, but it's not. It's the sweat from up here makes up for it and then just runs down. But that means I overheat really easily, so I have to be careful with that. Other things I have to face: bladder issues, sexual function issues, bowel doesn't work properly anymore, spasms, so I can't sleep really for longer than a couple of hours at a time. And then, I suppose because it's a video, but like you can probably see the difference between my 2 legs, but lifting, that's as far as I can lift my leg off the floor. And I've got a dropped foot on this side as well. So, I'm still pretty affected, but like way, way further than I ever thought I would be. And it's amazing how the human brain spirit adapts to things. You just get used to it. Life's not easy physically now, but I'm used to it and I know how to do it. And I also realise how lucky I am to not. I was in a wheelchair for nearly a year. It's not easy. Just being able to step over a curb is a really important thing to be able to do. Yeah. But you don't take that for granted until you can't, for a while. So in a lot of ways, it's just made me appreciate the bits I can do, not be annoyed about the stuff that I can't.
And now you're helping others. So you set up Millimetres to Mountains, amazing charity. So you take other people up on these crazy adventures up mountains and help them overcome adversity. Because I think the important thing is we all have adversity in our lives. It might be something little, it might be something big, but it affects all of us. And it's learning how not to sink down and to, like you said, have goals and have a purpose. And so you help people overcome that.
Yeah, and I climbed Snowden. I didn't mean to get hooked on mountains from that, but when I opened it up on the blog, I said people should come along if they want to, and I didn't expect anyone to turn up. Honestly, just thought it'd be family and a few friends, but there were 70 people turned up on the start line.
How wonderful.
Yeah, it was amazing. Most of them I didn't know them. It wasn't just like all of my mates. And just had this amazing weekend where we did get to the top. And I couldn't not get to the top when 70 people turn up, so it was good motivation. But they were all going through their own things or they had their own stories, and you realise everyone's got their own trauma to certain degrees. You understand this, and it's like, and I started, as I moved forward and climbed higher, I started realising the real healing benefits of being outdoors, but also challenging myself. And it became unbelievably therapeutic, not just physically but mentally. And we were raising money for a spinal unit in the pool back then, because I just wanted to. I was doing these challenges, I might as well raise money for something, right? And there was this charity called Neverest Orthopedics, who I was one of my friends' dads ran, and it was an amazing cause. They'd set up a spinal unit in Kathmandu, and we've got amazing healthcare in this country. And yes, of course, there's issues with it, but it's unbelievable. You go to somewhere like Nepal, they don't have anything. It's all charity funded. So I wanted to see that a pound that I raised here would go so much further over there.
Of course, yeah.
But then I started realising these trips where people were coming to raise money with us, the benefits they were getting psychologically from it. And I thought, actually, the real power is getting people who are struggling to these environments. And mirroring my recovery effectively. So I almost felt, I knew that yes, the outdoors had helped get me out of my comfort zone and give me a sense of purpose, but actually the real reason I made the recovery I had was because of my support network, my family, my friends, access to physios, the rugby community, all of those sorts of things. And I almost started feeling guilty about the fact that I had that and other people didn't, and they didn't have that chance, no matter if they wanted to get better or not. So we created Millimetres to Mountains to give other people that chance and to mirror my recovery. So we take them on an adventure somewhere in the world, and that hopefully, so it's people who are suffering because of trauma. So that might be physical trauma or psychological trauma. And we take them on an adventure somewhere in the world to get them out of their comfort zone, to get them talking, to be the catalyst for change, but then put them into a 3-year development program where we fund life coaching, therapy, retraining, whatever that individual needs. to really turn their life around, and that is effectively exactly mirrors my journey. You know, so I know how it works, and I believe in it.
Yeah, it's you know,
and
amazing.
it's great. We've got 16 beneficiaries now. We're in our sort of third year of being a fully licensed charity, and it's all an amazing group of trustees, and some of the beneficiaries are coming back around and starting to help the new ones, and it's all just growing in a really nice way.
And then last year you wrote your book and called it Lucky. So do you now, I mean, you know, looking back, do you wish this had never happened? Do you wish, or do you think actually my life I wouldn't be where I am now had I not dived into the shallow end of the swimming pool?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no point living in regret. There's no question my life is harder now, day to day, management, physically, but the way it's changed my perspective on life, and the things I do now I find way more purpose in than I ever did from playing rugby. Even though I love playing rugby, I'm very lucky to still be involved in the sport, you know, on the media side, and I wouldn't change any of it. Obviously, if I could go back and not have a spinal cord injury, but still realise all the things that I do and still be doing the things I do, obviously I'd do that. But as a package, there's no way. And I think after about that sort of mindset changed after about a year and a half. I got to a point where I started to see that that accident and what was transpiring from it was having a positive effect on other people. And I said to myself, if enough positives can come for other people from this situation, then it's by definition, it's no longer a bad thing that happened. So that was the mission I set out on, and I think that's gone way past that. You know, it would be selfish to go back and take it back. But I think at the same time, and I don't know it'd be interesting to know how you feel about this, but like, it is a coping mechanism. By helping other people, it helps you deal with what's going on with you, because you see you give something that's not on paper a good thing, but you give that thing purpose, and then that's a decision. And once that thing's helping enough people, then it's no longer a bad thing. It's a good thing that's happened to you because it's benefiting others.
Because you're helping others, I mean, no, like you know, I feel lucky just because I have friends and family and other people, you know, are on their own dealing with Parkinson's and stuff. So it's exactly the same. But you know, if I can speak to people like you and hear how amazing you are and how you've overcome, you know, adversity in your life, then that really helps me, and hopefully, you know, helps a lot of other people out there. And soon you're off to the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, going out to Beijing to do the Winter Paralympics in February, flying out end of Feb. 2.5 weeks.
I mean, how fantastic is that?
It's pretty scary. I mean, it's amazing. I did the Summer Paralympics in Tokyo, which was an unbelievable experience, except this time I'm presenting and hosting the whole breakfast show on Channel 4 for a week in a row, which is quite daunting.
That'll be fine.
Yeah, be fine. But it's amazing, you know, again, like you said, so many unbelievable characters doing amazing things with their lives in the face of adversity, and it's a constant cycle. You know, you said you were inspired by my story, I'm inspired by your story, we're all inspired by other people's stories. I think it's great, and I think and the Paralympics is obviously a microscope and all of that, just so many incredible people everywhere. But then I'm off to Nepal after that, so, and it's probably a good thing I'm not thinking about that, but I'm going to try and be the first person with a spinal cord injury to climb to over 7,000 metres. So that is a daunting prospect, but luckily I've got this Paralympics Channel 4 thing in front of it, so I haven't had too much time to think about it.
And actually that's really good, because hopefully they'll inspire you and help you to get to the next goal. Just one day at a time.
One day at a time.
So if we were to sort of share with those watching just a couple of tips to help you, anyone facing adversity. I mean, purpose, you say having some purpose in your life is really key. What other things would you say to people?
I think if someone's going through facing adversity, it's like realising that it's okay to be the emotion. You can't control your emotions. It's okay to feel bad and be upset and have anxiety, and I've been through all of those processes before, but it's like, how do you unravel that? And the first thing is communication, is speaking to other people about it and not suffering in silence. And for me, that came off the back of the blog, and then people getting in touch with me who'd been through it before, so like peer support.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing doctors or therapists or even family saying something to you, but if you speak to someone who you're not emotionally connected with but have been through something similar, and you can always find those people, right, in the communities, you they might not be saying anything different, but you absorb it more, and it feels like you share that with them. And the other thing is to just try and focus on the positives and not worry about the things you can't affect. It's easier said than done, but Stoicism was someone gave me a book called The Obstacle is the Way, and it's about Stoicism, which is an ancient Greek philosophy, and it's all about, you know, letting go of those things that you have no control over, and which is most of the things that causes anxiety. You know, what am I going to be doing in a year's time or 5 years' time, or what I could have done differently in the past? All of those things don't matter. It's just about removing emotion, accepting the emotion, but then just taking the rational route forward. And if you can do that and chuck a bit of perspective on top and realise how lucky you are to be alive in the first place, no matter how bad things are, then that's the start of the recovery process. But it's a process, right? It's not like click your fingers and be happy. You know, it's been a long journey for both of us, and also we still have bad days, you know, and that's fine. But it's just sort of creating those mechanisms to help you through it. And the first one would be communication, I reckon.
Yeah. And a bit of laughter, because
Ed's
got the most lovely wife, Lois, and honestly they're so gorgeous together, and they laugh a lot, and I love that. I saw you headbanging in the car the other day.
Dark humour is a really, really important element. If you can't laugh at yourself, then I mean, you know, what is the point? I mean, and also I think a bit of laughter can just steal the seriousness from a situation straight away. I mean, you wouldn't believe how non-PC some of the conversations that go on around Paralympians are. You know, the woke brigade would have a heart attack if they heard the chat.
The BBC would not be happy.
No, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck with everything that you've got coming up this year.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Vicky.
Hope that's helped you. Bye.
Bye.